China has long been the backbone to the furniture industry, particularly for American brands, but that's all starting to change. Hello, this is Tom Russell, and we're about to take a deeper dive into Vietnam, an emerging force in the global furniture industry. In August 2019, right in the midst of the trade war with China, we visited multiple factories in Vietnam. We got a first-hand look on the impact of the Vietnamese people and how it will impact America in the near future. We also spoke to many of the industry-leading companies that have made the move to Vietnam. It was interesting to hear the massive amounts of money and resources being spent there, what successes they were having, and what the outlooks were for these new manufacturing facilities.
It's like the gold rush right now in Vietnam, and so we have to be very careful.
We have all heard the news about how America is in a trade war with China and how that has acutely affected our industry. With the tariffs on finished goods jumping from 10 to 25%, many manufacturers have been scrambling to shift all or some of their production elsewhere. So almost overnight, Vietnam has seen some incredible growth.
We only started moving in here actually just 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's still quite new. By the end of next month, it'll be fully operational.
This is now all of our new construction that's now complete. So this represents 2.5 million square feet of more manufacturing. Incredible story. I still, in 9 months, he built all of this.
From Southeast Asia, Vietnam sounds like and looks like it's the best place for investment.
What percentage was in China before you moved it here of your mattresses?
100% of all our import mattresses were coming out of China. Now we're about 60%, 70% in Vietnam, and 30 to 40% in the U.S.
That's significant. This is amazing. Before the tariffs even became an issue, Vietnam already was a major producer for the U.S. market. What has it been about Vietnam that has made this the right place for you and the company?
You know, I'm a craftsman, and the Vietnamese are great craftsmen.
His father will have been a carver, his grandfather will have been a carver. He's come from a carving village. This skill, we can't train this skill. This is the only skill. Veneer marquetry, we trained. They didn't even know what veneer was when they joined the company. It'd take me a week to do something he could do in a couple of hours.
The government here is stable and prominent. And then you have the Vietnamese culture. Very, very high quality worker means productivity will continue to improve. We have 1.1 million young people entering the workforce every year. So we have a platform here that's sizable.
One of the oldest companies to have set up shop in Vietnam is Jonathan Charles. I had the opportunity to speak with company founder Jonathan Souter, who's been doing business in Vietnam since 2004. This facility has been here how long?
15 years in Vietnam, 5 years in this location. The original plan was to be an OEM factory, but just purely by accident, everything kind of fell into place. We had our own brand very quickly, and it just took off based on craftsmanship and quality. We always wanted to do the things that other people either couldn't do or didn't want to do because it was too difficult. Other brands in the industry, high-end brands in the industry, started approaching me because we can make things that you can't make in England and America anymore. The crafts are not there.
And that involves probably a lot of mixed media elements.
It's probably our number one speciality is mixing materials together.
It's crotch mahogany with mother of pearl inlay. It's actually a combination of veneer and mother of pearl. There's 4 different types of mother of pearl on there. That is a duck egg. These are duck eggs that have been stuck to furniture. So the eggshell is curved like that. If you sand through it, you reveal a circle. You reveal an oval as you sand through the shape of the eggshell.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. You know, if you're a designer for an OEM company and you visit our factory, they've never seen anything like it. They can do anything here.
Like many of the companies here, Jonathan Charles is making sure it is vertically integrated and self-reliant. And as you'll see, this is something that we saw throughout our trip to Vietnam. Jonathan Charles, for example, has a photography studio right in their factory. But not only that, they have a full editorial staff that publishes and markets their products.
Can you build a catalog from that?
Absolutely. So here we're doing email blasts in 9 languages every month.
I mean, you really could put this on a coffee table and people would like look at the whole thing.
Everybody should have one.
That's right.
Who needs a restoration hardware catalog when you can have...
That's right. One of the fascinating things I saw at Jonathan Charles was a handle being made in a very handcrafted way. Time and effort are the key ingredients.
And then it goes in that room to dry, stays there one day, then you do it again, one day, do it again, until it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. People just see a handle on a piece of furniture and they've no idea how it's made. I'd love to educate everybody on the amount of work and craftsmanship that goes into making just something as simple as a handle.
It's not rocket science and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, it's just how I believe furniture should be made.
Another company that's making a big push into Vietnam is Manhwa, motion furniture manufacturer that has invested probably about $400 million plus in new facilities and equipment to be able to expand their production in Vietnam.
Mr. Wang met with the owner of this factory and that same day bought the factory. We moved in 3 weeks after. The day he moved in, he decided to expand the factory. Right now, what we believe is the largest upholstery vertical factory in Vietnam to date.
You know, he came in here before the tariffs really started. And started committing to these construction companies. We got everything we needed before it became a crisis. We test every element of our product, whether you're seating testing, your weight testing. We test our woods, we test our mechanisms, we test the foam.
One of the interesting things about Manhwa is they're building highly automated equipment, robotic technology that's building motors, for example, that will go into their products. They also manufacture their own recliner mechanisms, a major component, as we know, in motion furniture.
You'll see all of these motors are actually built by machines. Right? And that's why they build 2,000 of these a day.
Manhwa is committed to Vietnam, all right, as we're committed to China. So we could do the really better products out of China, even with the tariff. Domestic manufacturers can't compete with that. And on the good and better, we can produce out of Vietnam. Today, the capacity is around 1,100 containers a month. By the end of the year, we'll have capacity of over 2,000. Eventually, there'll be 4,000. This kind of gives you one aspect of how much inventory we're holding. Everywhere before there's a dock, there's orders ready to go out.
Another facility that we visited in Vietnam was Stanley Furniture's assembly and finishing operation. Stanley was purchased by Walter Blocker in early 2018, and this is the latest investment Mr. Blocker has made in Vietnam with the purchase of this manufacturing operation.
This facility was originally designed to be for 5 businesses, and we took the whole thing. When I first came out here 8 years ago, I thought that this would not be a good place to have because it was so far away. There was nothing out here, and now it's a city. It's unbelievable.
I think we're perfectly positioned because we are in control. We are a brand owner that is vertically integrated and in control of its supply chain. Second, we are very experienced Vietnam operators. I was one of the first 100 American companies to set up here in 1994, and I've had many different kinds of manufacturing experience, but I'm from Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina. Third, contract manufacturers are not aligned with their customers in terms of service and price. I eliminate that by having everything under one roof.
This factory is laid out, and each of our lines is 1 kilometer long, and we have 2. It's set up so that we can do a range of furniture and then have a quick changeover and change the finish very quickly.
Productivity in Vietnam is good today, but it is not great. And those who manage with a process and a system for continuous improvement will be able to get more productivity out of this workforce.
Vietnam is obviously booming. We saw that directly through the investments in equipment, facilities, and technology at the manufacturing level. But all this progress comes at a cost, and we saw some of that firsthand during our visit too.
One of the knock-on effects of the shift to Vietnam from China is it's getting harder and harder to recruit. Materials are going up.
Cost is definitely a concern, but it's not just the labor cost and the labor shortage, it's also cost of land, increasingly stressed infrastructure.
One of the most obvious signs of the strain on the infrastructure in Vietnam is the amount of traffic on the main roads and the secondary roads. You have not only bikes and motor scooters, but an increasing number of cars, so it can take an hour or two, if not more, to get to and from the factories. And that also leads to questions about logistics, getting goods to the port, and that we understand those facilities are strained as well. One of the issues that we discussed with factory owners and management was the tight labor supply in Vietnam. And each company seems to be bringing their own individual approach to how they retain workers.
It's always a challenge. You know, we recruit unskilled workers generally,
yes.
and we train them ourselves because we're high-end. But then we have the danger of becoming just a university for other factories if we lose those workers. So we really focus on treating our people well.
We provide the housing allowance to our workers. Our workers, they are at the marriage age right now, so a lot of them have children and babies. That's why we are also establishing our own kindergarten.
Our owners have made a major commitment to the community. He's giving money to schools and scholarships to children and bicycles, you know, to schools.
The environment at work, you know, we have about 60% of our operations are air conditioned.
And this is a nice place to work. It's like nice and bright, it's cool. This is what I think a lot of workers want to go to.
There's a danger for me, I think, with all of this shift from China to Vietnam. The danger could be the tariffs could suddenly apply to Vietnam if we're not careful, and you become a victim of your own success. You draw too much attention to yourself. So for me, I just wish it would stay nice and quiet and keep your head down.
This really was an incredible trip that we experienced in Vietnam, and I have to agree with Jonathan Souter of Jonathan Charles that it really feels like there's a gold rush, a feeling of excitement, opportunity as factories scramble and expand. Consumers in the U.S. market, they see the finished product, they don't see really what goes into it, but this hopefully gives an insight into the depth and breadth of work that's taking place to bring added value to the U.S. consumer. We're going to have a lot more information on this topic, including full interviews with a lot of the factories that we visited, explaining their strategies and how they're approaching this growth. It's going to be available on FurnitureToday.com, and also the full report will be in our October 7th print edition, so don't miss that one as well.